I informed our landlord about non-lease tenants to screw X over. TL, doctor on the bottom. On mobile etc. This was quite a long time ago. I was in my early 20s and had just gotten out of a relationship. The separation wasn't exactly a pretty one. We had lived together and I was beyond ready to move out and never speak to him again. There was just one problem. We were only 5 months into a 1-year lease at our duplex. We had a 2-bedroom duplex, but I didn't want to ride it out because, as I said, messy breakup, tons of tension. So I moved in with a friend of mine. Soon after, I called my landlord and explained the situation to see if anything could be done. After the call, I brought the options to my ex. Find someone to take over my portion of the lease for the remaining months. He refused to do that and said he would not find someone to take my portion. Breaking the lease. I felt like this would have been a good option because he had a ton of family who would have easily taken him in. He refused this option as well and said he wasn't making me move out, I chose to, so I can deal with the consequences of my actions. He just refused to compromise with me at all. I had friends, family recommend I just don't pay rent at all, but I did not want to screw myself with an eviction on my rental history just to spite him. At this point I realized there was nothing I could do. I sucked it up and pretty much just accepted the fact that I was going to have to make 7 months worth of rent payments for a place I was no longer living at. So that is what I did. However, a few months later I was hanging out with a friend of mine. He was a friend of both my ex and I. He decides to let me know that my ex very recently had 5 people move into our apartment. 3 of them were unemployed and staying there rent-free. The other 2 had jobs and were each paying 1/3 of his portion of rent. I won't lie, if they would have covered my entire portion or even just part of it, I most likely would have let it go. The fact that he found people to live there after he told me he wouldn't, to keep me on the lease, and was cutting the cost of his own rent while making me pay my full portion for a place I no longer lived at brought me to a level of anger I didn't even know existed. I decided that if he wanted to continue to screw me over, then I was going to screw him over too. The next day I made a call to my landlord and told him everything. He immediately contacted my ex, made him pay a fine and told him that each and every one of the tenants needed to apply to be on the lease. All of them applied. None of them got approved, so they were all kicked out. He had to continue to pay his portion for the remaining months of the lease. Pretty sure he never found out it was me who ratted him out. Rude neighbor catches husband's pretty revenge. So this happened a while back when we still lived in the Houston area. We lived in a cul-de-sac, the corner house on a big lot at a 4-way intersection. Our neighbor diagonal from us decided he needed more room in his garage, I guess, and decided to move his Chrysler 300 to the street in front of our house. Our house had a lot of road frontage, so it wasn't unusual for someone to do that occasionally. We parked on the street often too, it wasn't an issue. This neighbor though left his car there without moving it for weeks. Without even mentioning it to us. He even parked in a SHTTY way that prevented someone else from comfortably parking there. My husband is the pettiest, and he got fed up and started letting air out of the guy's tires, starting with the ones on our side of the car so the neighbor couldn't see from his house. The tires got pretty flat all around and he still hadn't noticed. Then after a month of it being parked there, we finally called the county and reported an abandoned car. I mean, how are we to know it was his car if he never bothered to talk to us? They stickered it and he had 48 hours to move it. We saw him out there with little time to spare airing up tires and jumping the battery. He never spoke to us, no apology or, hey this is my car I live over there, etc. He never parked there again. We did catch some dirty looks though. Edit to add, I'm not sure I made this clear. We never expected anyone to ask to park in front of our house. It's a public street and everyone in the area would park there occasionally, mostly guests of neighbors. Had he mentioned to us that he planned to just leave his car there for the foreseeable future, we would have asked him to at least park in a way that left room for others. Also, he did have an empty garage and space in his driveway, and space in front of his own house. All of this led us to respond in kind, with equally rude behavior. After all, this is petty revenge, not how to solve things with your words. He left the car there for a month that we knew of. We first saw it after a 2-week vacation, and never moved it, started it, nothing. Literally left it till the battery died. The county told us that was plenty of time no matter whose car it was to be considered abandoned. Thanks for watching and don't forget to give a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Have a good one.